Is she? How long she in it? Take it by him. Yes. Say that I see you.
Why is everyone can hear us?
Yeah. Mine's on.
Which one's down here? I don't touch those. Did you do the top one?
Yes, that's right.
And the back one? What do you mean?
Your back and
This one?
I did get to talk to her.
There you go.
But we cut the game back just a skosh bit.
That's normal. I jacked up to 8.
The record show at 6 o'clock. I'll call a meeting to order. Sarah, will you please do the roll call?
Eddie Gopernauer,
Here.
Linda Barnhart,
Present.
Eric Gall,
Here.
McKenna Gordon,
Present.
Tim Lewis,
Present.
Daniel Gant,
Here.
Nick Steele.
Okay, we do have a quorum. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I don't think any changes have been made since we had it mailed to us.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion on Mr. Goff, second on Mr. Gokenhour to approve the agenda as submitted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passed. Sunshine Law speakers, I don't think we have any of those. Approval of the meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion on Mr. Goff to approve the meeting minutes as submitted. Need a second?
Second.
Second on Ms. Norton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain due to
Okay,
absence.
let the record show there's 2 abstentions. Mr. Gant and Mr. Lewis due to abstention, due to absence. Okay, we have one public hearing this evening, and that's overlook at Riverside Apartments.
Yes, this is a request for a major plan change. Overlook at Riverside Apartments Phase 2. Excuse me, the file number is 2205-133. The developer is Overlook at Riverside Apartments LLC. The engineer is Frederick Seibert and Associates. It's located in the Falling Waters District, map 7, parcel 160.3. The property is located on the east side of Williamsport Pike and south of I-81. This project proposes 6 apartment buildings, 2 carriage buildings, 152 units, with a dog park, pickleball courts, pavilion, and playground on 7.24 acres to be served by public water and sewer. At the September 19, 2022 Planning Commission meeting, the developer was granted a waiver to Section 801, Table 8-1A, subsection 7, multifamily dwelling apartments, requiring 2.5 spaces per apartment, plus 1 parking space for each on-site employee, plus 10% additional spaces for guests. On October 14, 2022, County Engineer Doug Smith stated that a review of the above-mentioned project was complete and found to be in compliance with the subdivision ordinance 2009. The major plan change meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends advancement of the major plan change to the final plat stage.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Trevor Frederick, engineer, FSA, representing the applicant.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. I don't think there's anybody even here to speak.
Move public hearing to close.
And let the record show that there's no attendance on the public hearing side.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gall, second by Mr. Gant to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Seibert or of the staff?
The question I have, ma'am, is that our note says 2 carriage buildings, but according to the plat, there's 4.
Correct, there are 4 carriage buildings. Must be a misprint.
Yeah. I could change it to reflect.
Thank you.
Good catch. Any other questions?
There are no further questions. I'll make the motion. We accept staff recommendation, advance the major plan change to the final plan stage.
Second.
Have a motion, Mr. Gant, second by Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation and to advance the project to the to the final plat stage. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice Thanksgiving. The next project, which is not a public hearing, is airport lots.
Yes, this is a request for preliminary plan approval. The project is the airport lots, Bowman Development, file number 2209-267. The developer is the Bowman Group. The engineer is Fox and Associates. It's located in the Arden District, map 15, parcel 9.1. This site is located along the south side of Novak Drive, approximately 0.2 miles east of the intersection with Winchester Avenue. This project proposes a 120,000 square foot warehouse building on approximately 11 acres to be served by public water and sewer. No waivers or exceptions have been requested. On November 16, 2022, the county engineer Doug Smith issued a letter stating that a review of the above-mentioned project was complete and found to be in compliance with the subdivision ordinance 2009. The preliminary plan meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends approval.
Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Good evening, Steve Stianovich, Fox and Associates, representing the applicant.
Thank you. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Sianovich?
I do.
I do too.
Are they just merging all these lots together to make that?
That's correct.
Okay.
We already prepared and had recorded a merger plat and plat of easement associated with stormwater feature. That was done as a minor, therefore it wasn't before this commission for approval.
How long ago was that done? Do you know?
2 weeks ago.
2-3 weeks ago, yes.
We require it as part of our
Okay.
review process.
There was a note placed on the preliminary plan cover sheet that makes reference to the
Okay.
Obama
Because
case.
this is really, really hard to read. My question is, and I'm fairly sure it's not, but what about the airport?
No fly zone.
Yeah,
That's a good question. Two things.
I'm known for good questions.
I mean, really, it's a good question. The very first thing we did, the very first thing we ever did at sketch plan, for example, is contact the FAA filing a, I think it's a 7450 application for a finding of no hazard to air navigation. We did do that here. That was submitted as part of the sketch plan. Also, we took a look at the runway protection zones and things like that, that it's not in the glide path of an approaching aircraft.
It's only in
Approaching?
the height restriction zone.
It's not override.
Well, I'm sure it's not over height, but I remember a couple of years ago, and Mr. Lewis may remember, there was a, and you admit too,
Right in the corner.
there was a proposal for a plaza of some kind, and it was in the,
In the glide path.
RPZ,
this is not at all,
not at all.
okay. All right, that was my question.
So it meets everything that's in our ordinance for that?
Yeah, like our airport ordinance would have evaluated it and said, you need to go get an FAA no hazard to air navigation letter, and they had that before they even submitted the sketch plan. And that, all that does is it gets his building elevation as, you know, congruent to the site's elevation and then the runway elevation. It's substantially lower than the runway elevation.
Many of my clients have us do that before they purchase the property. They don't want to buy a 10-acre tomato farm, for example. So usually that's one of the first things we look into is the FAA letters.
Well, yeah, the thing that comes to my mind is the project that was submitted to us a couple of years ago. They said they were told that it was not in the protected area, and it was, and we were challenged with a possible lawsuit that never
I
materialized.
thought that project was west of the end of the runway. This is really south of the end.
No, I think it was
It
south.
was-
Right on the corner.
So it was right on the corner of Novak and 11, but this is just far enough away where it's not in it at all.
Alright.
Like literally like right on the outskirts of it. If it was any closer to Route 11, it might be, but the
Okay.
whole parcel's out.
All right, as long as we're,
Yeah, no, we triple check it, you know, we have layers like on our llama system. We actually have layers now where we can see everything live in real time compared to the property.
okay. Okay, that was my question. Anybody else have a question?
I'll make the motion, we approve staff recommendation and approve the preliminary plan.
Second.
Motion of Mr. Gant, second of Mr. Gokenhour to accept staff recommendation and approve the preliminary plan for airport lots. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Have a nice Thanksgiving, Steve. The next item on the agenda is Mid-Atlantic Logistics Park.
Yes, this is a request, excuse me, for preliminary final plat approval. The project is Mid-Atlantic Logistics Park Lot 4. The file number is 2209-284. The developer is Horizon Martinsburg 324K LLC, and the engineer is Fox and Associates. It's located in the Arden District, map 14, parcel 15. This site is located on the east side of Development Drive, northeast of its intersection with Corning Way. This project proposes the subdivision of existing Lot 3 into a 24.7 acre parcel and a 22.9 acre parcel. Both lots are served by public water and sewer. On November 16, 2022, County Engineer Doug Smith issued a letter of approval stating that the, excuse me, the above-mentioned project was compliant with the subdivision ordinance 2009. The project is compliant with the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends approval of the preliminary final plat.
Thank you. Here you are again.
Steve Sianovich, Fox and Associates, representing the applicant.
Thank you. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Sianovich? I suppose this is going to merge these two lots for a big warehouse, right?
No, it's actually, when the preliminary was prepared for this, there were two separate buildings. They made arrangements for future subdivision. Now we're at the time where we're at the future subdivision, where individual water and sewer utilities were accounted for, individual fire storage tanks were accounted for. Why they didn't subdivide at the preliminary phase or immediately thereafter, don't have a good answer to that question.
They evaluated it in mind, knowing that if they found the right tenant or the right buyer for a building, that they would subdivide it. They don't share anything other than an approved DOH entrance, which was approved for both buildings. And then they share their stormwater areas, which are all under easements and maintenance agreements between the two parcels. So it's pretty simple for us, because we knew it was gonna come through at some point, but I'm not sure why they just didn't subdivide it from the get-go.
Is this across from the P&G building?
It's close to the, I don't think it's right across.
No, so like if you go down Corning and go up development, they did the two preliminary plans for one giant building that's adjacent to 81, and then on the other side of Development Drive. So it's on the south side of Development Drive from Business Park Drive, I guess.
That's what I'm trying to figure out here. You go Corning Way,
You go down Corning and take a right, you go past, yep.
but isn't P&G like over here? That one the building they built off-site?
They might have, I don't know if they used that building for P&G when it came through, it was just a proposed warehouse, but probably, if that's what you're
P&G's
thinking.
in there.
Because it's a massive warehouse on the other
Yeah,
side.
that's P&G.
Yeah.
The building that's proposed on Lot 3, I believe, excuse me, that's an existing building on Lot 3.
Trying to figure out where this is. I mean, I know where Corning Way is in Development Drive, but
It seems like many of those warehouses down there are support for P&G.
yeah.
You know,
They
even the
didn't
one
build them
I,
themselves, they just rented or leased them or whatever.
right, I mean, the ones I've done for Bowman, the ones I've done for ACT, it's all support for P&G.
That's all, I was just curious. I wanted to make sure I was in the right area.
You ready for a motion, ma'am?
I am.
I make a motion, we accept the staff recommendation that the project is compliant with the subdivision ordinance 2009, therefore staff recommends approval of the preliminary final plat.
Motion by Mr. Gokenhour, second by Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Goff.
Oh, Mr. Gall, sorry. To accept the staff recommendation, and that is to approve the preliminary final plat. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
yeah,
Have a nice Thanksgiving.
thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anything from staff, legal counsel?
Just, we need to be thinking about moving forward on subdivision.
Yeah, I have some questions on the regulations. All the tables, are they tables that are taken from some other chart that we have to comply with?
It depends. You would have to ask me what table.
Well, there's a whole bunch of them. Parking's one,
Those are taken from national standards.
That's what I'm-
parking stuff,
the
like
parking,
ITE or
yeah.
hashtag.
Like the shared parking came out of a model shared ordinance that was developed for shared parking out west. I think where I originally got that, we came up with that to help us with a waiver last year. It was a model ordinance that was created out of Washington or Oregon, and we found several in the Midwest, with some, Houston, Dallas, Kansas City have them, and we kind of looked at them, and they all ran about the same kind of thing, and we kind of simplified it a little bit to make it easier for us to apply.
And then there's side yards and front yards and
Now,
things like.
that's pretty much came out of the original
Original,
ordinance,
okay,
and they were pretty much unchanged. Those are out. So
okay, okay. Yeah, I've marked them like, and I guess Eddie probably saw this too. I assumed that since there was so many of them, so many models, that they were taken from either our old ordinance or from a model somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, some of them would have been, like in the engineering tables, some of those are made up by me. I literally derived that table,
Okay,
reworked it, and modernized it. There's some tables in there, like the parking tables. We took exhibits out on purpose and turned them into tables. Like, we simplified the pavement sections. There are no more standard pavement sections as far as thickness goes. We basically are requiring everybody to determine that geotechnically engineering.
That's smart.
In other words, it's actually cheaper for the developer to do that than it is to use a standard section. The shared parking was probably, I think, the biggest one that we really created from a planning thing.
The shared parking, if you remember the project up in Falling Waters at Allen Henry's Industrial Park where they had the brewery, the office
Yes,
space.
Langston
That
Drive.
stuff, so we did the waiver for that and we did a ton of research on what's the national standard, what's a good number for shared parking, what's it look like. So we found one that we liked, that's what we used for
Okay.
suggestions for the waiver, and then that's what we kind of stuck with when we added the shared parking stuff into the new ordinance.
okay.
And it's based on to simplify it, like, if you have we have a brewery and then an office space. Well, the office space, its parking demand is different than what the brewery space demand is. And there's some overlaps in there, but you basically look at it's a table of times and it tells you when they peak out. And
Yeah.
you're able to come up with your worst case.
I think we talk about that whenever we do that shared
And
parking.
it was a model ordinance that I found, and then we verified it with a couple other big jurisdictions that had sort of the same thing. And they were doing, some did it differently, some used ITE, some had this chart. We went with the one that was the easiest for
Us to keep
anybody
track
to
of.
figure out. We tried to keep it, not that they had to hire a traffic engineer to figure it out, it was more, anybody could go in there and read that, come up with that number.
All right, well, I was just curious, for the public hearing purposes, which I understand that we don't have to have a public hearing, but the council has to have a public hearing. And I was just curious how that's going to come out in a public hearing. And for my own edification, I thought I would ask that question, and you've satisfactorily answered it. Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't pull it from like Wikipedia, you know what
No?
I mean? Like we
Yeah,
tried,
we
you
tried to
know.
verify.
You didn't look at
that stuff.
TikTok or anything?
No,
You didn't push the easy
they
button?
don't have shared parking videos, unfortunately. Sorry
Okay,
about it.
if there's nothing
Move to
else,
adjourn.
I have a motion by Mr.
Everybody have a happy
Dahl
Thanksgiving.
to adjourn at 6:18. And Mr.
December.
Gann seconded, right?
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.